This Torah class is brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.
Boker Tov. Good morning, everyone. Buongiorno. Good morning. We're leaving Venice, but we can't leave before speaking about a very important subject that is very relevant to Venice. Venice was the center of printing. In Venice began the printing revolution, which made an indelible impression on the history and the Torah literature in Italy and throughout the world. In general, Italian Jews were always known as book lovers, as intellectuals. They studied manuscripts of halacha, medrash, haggadah. Wealthy bankers used to spend their fortune on purchasing manuscripts. They would amass very impressive libraries. One of the most renowned libraries in all of Italy was that of Don Yitzchak Abarbanel, whose kever we're going to visit shortly. With the innovation of the printing press, they established presses for Jewish printing. The most well-known among the Jewish printing presses was Soncino, established by the Soncino family in 1483. The first Gemara was published in 1483. What's the mnemonic to remember that? Gemara, Gematria, 1483. The Soncino family published 23 Masechtos of Shas. Anybody know how many Masechtos are in Shas? Very good, 36 Lamed Vav Masechtos. There's a tshuva, first tshuva, in Shas Tshuvas Yehuda Yala, Rabbi Yehuda Assad. How do you calculate the 36 Masechtos? Soncino family published 23 Masechtas. However, comes Daniel Bamberg, a Christian from Antwerp. He was an international businessman. He owned ships. He was the greatest printer in history of Jewish books. Now, he revolutionized printing because he brought in all of his business connections into the world of printing. He received from the Pope a permit to open a Jewish print shop. He also invested personally heavily in Jewish printing. In the 33 years his shop was operational, he published more than 2,000 different Jewish books. Of each he published, of many of them, tens of thousands of copies. Of Torah, he published the first Mikra'is Gedolos Chumash, Tanakh with Targum, with Rashi, Talmud Bavli with Rashi, Tosfos, Talmud Yushalmi, the Dalet Turim we mentioned in Italy before the Torah came to the scene. First they followed the Rambam, then the Tosfos Rid. But now the Torah is being disseminated in Italy. He published Mechilta, Sifra, Sifri, She'iltais, Ramban, Rashba. Bamberg published with responsibility, with accuracy for each word. Bamberg employed the most distinguished Talmidei Chachamim to be editors, to be typesetters. Before he published a volume, he purchased many different manuscripts of that sefer to be able to create the most accurate text. He used Niyar Meshubach, the best paper. He used the clearest fonts. Now, if you know anything about Jewish printing, I don't want to mention names and give extra business to any particular company, but Jewish printing is not only about printing, it's also about dissemination. And Daniel Bamberg used his international business connections for shipping and distribution of his farm throughout the world. The first edition of the Bamberg Shas, 1520, and then 1523, about 100 editions of Gemara were published. After that, almost every future edition of Shas used the original format of the Bamberg Shas. So we mentioned in the original Soncino edition, Masechta Brachos was tremendous. It had about 90 blot. So in the Bamberg Shas, how many blot are in Brachos? Masechta Brachos ends on what blot? Samach Dalet, I believe. 63 blot, right? So actually Brachos has 62 and a quarter blot, because the last Amud is half an Amud. Now, in the heels of Bamberg's success and high-level quality, so Rabbanim throughout the Ottoman Empire, from North Africa, made the trek to Venice, or they sent their folios to Venice to to publish. The Beis Yosef was in Turkey. There was printing in Turkey. No, the Beis Yosef wanted to use the Bamberg printing. He could have sent it to Salonika. No, the Beis Yosef wanted to use Niyar Meshubach and the fonts of the Bamberg printing. And because of publishing, Venice became a Torah center, and not only of printing, Sfarim sales. So besides Bamberg's printing of books and disseminating of books, the first Eichlers was owned by Daniel Bamberg. He sold books even that other publishers published. In his store, he would often carry 1,500 different types of Sifrei Yisrael. That's the first edition. Soncino, followed by Bamberg. Now let's talk about the second edition. Now there's a idea here that many people, they could have learned Daf Yomi and learned through the cycle many times, and they're still not familiar with all the details of a page of Gemara. What do you call the notes on the side of the Gemara that cross-references when you have a Gemara, let's say, that appears in one place and it appears elsewhere? It's called Mesoros Hashas. Does anybody know who wrote the Mesoros Hashas? Nobody's going to know. I'm going to challenge you. Nobody knows. See, now you're getting a little uncomfortable. Does anybody know? Did anyone here ever learn Gemara before? Who wrote the Mesoros Hashas? What do you call the notes in the top left-hand side where it tells you where in Halacha the Gemara is brought down? Torah Ar, Ner Mishpat. Does anybody know who wrote that? So it's a good thing you came on this trip. The Torah Ar, Mesoros Hashas, the Ein Mishpat, the Ner Mitzvah came from the Shiltei Hagiborim. Who was the Shiltei Hagiborim? He wrote notes on the Rif. Shiltei Hagiborim was none other than Rabbi Yehoshua Boyaz. The notes of the Shiltei Hagiborim, Torah Ar, Mesoros Hashas, Ner Mitzvah, Ein Mishpat, did not appear in the Bamberg edition, did not appear in the Soncino edition. They first appeared in the second edition of Talmud Bavli in 1550. Who published the second edition of Talmud Bavli? It was known as the Justinian edition of Talmud Bavli. This edition now employed the notes of the Shiltei Hagiborim, Torah Ar, Mesoros Hashas, Ein Mishpat, Ner Mitzvah. What year was this? The year Shakai, Shin Dalid Yud, 1554. Shakai. So this is interesting. The Chida brings the first Gemara published in the year Gemara. The second edition published in the year Shakai. And the Chida writes beautiful words about the contribution of the Shiltei Hagiborim, that he wrote it Lezakois Es Yisrael. Listen to this lashon. V'harav Yehoshua Boyaz, hu heichel liois gibar chayel. He was a mighty warrior. Lezakois hayrabim hayra gever. So this was in the year Shakai, Shin Dalid Yud. Now, I want to share with you a chidush of Soncino. This is a chidush which was not even realized until more recently, but according to the Soncino edition of Tehillim, the kaiseres of a parak of Tehillim does not count as a pasuk. So, for example, Lam Natseach al Hashminis Mizmar LeDavid is not pasuk aleph. Mizmar Shiur Chanukas Habayis LeDavid is not pasuk aleph. It's not a pasuk, it's a kaiseres, it's a header. So you say, what's the difference whether it's a pasuk or it's a header? Well, we're going later today to Rabbi Yitzchak Lamprunte, to Ferrara. Rabbi Yitzchak Lamprunte talks about someone who made a neder to learn 10 psukim of Tehillim every day. So could you get away with learning as one of them Mizmar Shir Chanukas Habayis LeDavid? Says Soncino, absolutely not. These are not psukim. They are headings. But there's one exception. The exception is Mizmar Shir Liyoim Hashabas. That's not a header, it's a pasuk. So you'll ask, Mehechitesi, where did Soncino get this from? How does he know Lam Natsech Mizmar LeDavid is not a pasuk, and Mizmar Shiur, the Yom HaShabbos, is a pasuk? Well, it's brought in the name of the Nachlas David. The proof is from the last Mishnah, Masechta Tamid. Hashiur Shahalavium Hayo Aimrim Beveis Hamikdash. Bayayim Harishain Hayo Aimrim. Not Lam Natseach Mizmar LeDavid. Lashem Haaretz U'Malaya, because the parak doesn't begin until Lashem Haaretz U'Malaya. Likewise, all the other chapters that the Levium sang, the Mishnah does not begin with the header; it begins with the actual body of the parak. Not so Shabbos. B'Shabbos Hayu Aimrim Mizmar Shiur Liyom HaShabbos. So this Chidush of the Nachlas David was already issued by Soncino in the end of the 15th century. So this is one of the reasons how Venice became a world center of Torah publication, and its influence is still felt ad hayom hazeh.
You've just experienced another Torah class brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.